I was making new friends. All my life, I have treated friendship equal to family and lovers. Some people would say it is a third, but I am of firm belief that you need to have a good family, good partner, and good friends, and a good boss, even, to feel solid. Hence why I've been running through life like liquid, just spilling all over it. It was at the time I was contemplating two things: daddy recovery and my own stupidity. Shamira was of Oman descent and proud of her Arabic roots. She had initiated the friendship when I began to speak of theater, and she thought she had found another Middle Eastern Broadway baby. To be frank, all my life people have sworn I was either Arabic or native, and occasionally said Latina. Yet what they failed to see is that I'm crazy. Yet I digress. We hit it off, and immediately she told me she does not plan things but does invite people over. But she's entered a new era of her life where she wanted to stop inviting people into her world only to find them crush or exit it. I understood the feeling and found it refreshing that someone was being open about their own journey to get a little thing called boundaries. We were at her house eating edibles and binge watching Superman and Lois. She had a gorgeous, luminous apartment, of which she made note that mine was small and smelled like my dog. Our mutual friend denied it, but I was hurt, and since then have doused my place with so much lavender that tourists have walked in confusing it for a park. Our occasional meetings for co-working and aperols had revealed that Shamira was pretty pretentious, judgmental, and definitely a gossip. Yet that was my father, which is why all those red flags waving meant nothing. To me, they were the fabrics that smacked your face as you learned to be persistent and constant for everyone but yourself. Her partner of 7 years had entered after working a long and hard day on a Saturday. He had some edibles and was superbly friendly. He looked tired, but he managed to be warm, and I was grateful because edibles make me an introvert. As Superman kissed Lois, I noticed Shamira was looking at Facebook at her first love. He was a Korean man that had become a pop star, but when she knew him, they were two lovebirds ready to run away together, supposedly. She recalled to me with glistening eyes and over cinnamon beer how they had planned to elope away from his judgmental family. She had flown out to Paris, and the next day they had everything booked and ready for a quickie wedding. He never showed. Instead, he called her the day after the no show wedding and said he was unwilling to give up everything for her. And through the years, he would put a restraining order on her for cyberstalking his new wife. Of course, when she said that last part, it sounded more romantic and like the natural choice of a mentally stable woman with three dogs and a 7 years together man. I miss him, she sighed and looked straight at her partner. He was the love of my life. Her face contorted between this dreamy reminiscence and targeted instigation. Her eyes darted between pictures of a K-pop star and her on edibles husband. I wish I could go back to him. Her partner ignored her, staring and smirking at Clark Kent in hopes he would fly off that screen and save him from what apparently happened all the time. Her yearning for a long lost love that was more lost than love, and him just staring. I was uncomfortable and felt slightly endangered. Why did she want him to feel bad or jealous of a guy that clearly did not want her and had enough evidence to prove she was a crazy obsessive? Of course, she would say his wife forced him and that they occasionally message, but again, I digress. Her partner smiled and she rambled in solitude to her friend's higher ears about the one that got away. But I think he absolutely ran for the hills. That will be the last time we saw each other, and though we made oaths to plan more meetups, we did not follow through. For Shamira, perhaps I went from smelling too much like my dog to too lavender. For me, I thought if you want to hurt and make feel bad the partner you have, the person you sleep with every day and pays for your life, you are definitely going to make my small apartment ass hurt. Thus, I respected the red flag and felt very proud that this time I did not ignore it. All right, let's discuss, let's heal. So, Shamira, let me tell you something. I think this happened like maybe a little more than a year ago that I was hanging out with Shamira, and this was one of the first times in my life that I saw a red flag And I said, mm-mm, mm-mm. And technically, I hadn't, it wasn't even the first red flag. I think the first red flag was when she said, you're going to have to invite me everywhere. I don't, I invite people over, but I am in an era of my life where people plan and I go. You text me, I don't text. And my father was one of those, call me dads, by age 3, demanding his daughter to call him because he can't. He's not. She has to learn, relationships go both ways. I mean, just an absolute wolf of a human being. And but I was used to that dynamic of being the chaser. And I actually, in my little brain of like trying to reconstruct and heal myself into a stronger human being with my own boundaries, I interpreted that as this is a person that could lead me by example, right? This is a person that is saying, this is what I want, this is how I like it. And I don't do that. I don't say that. So I didn't even take it personally or see it as a red flag. I saw it as, let me take notes because I never tell people what I want until they have absolutely crushed and disappointed me and you saw it in the episode 6 week timer, I almost have to send them like um, a chore list. Hey, can you guys do this, that for me before we break up? And when she said about like my apartment, I knew she found it because she goes, "Oh, this apartment is so Asian. It's so small." I was like, "What is in the shadiness?" And I love to invite people over. I love to have juegos de mesa. I'm sorry, board games. I love to I don't know. I lived so isolated and I came from a family that was really mistreated me. On one hand, I was the smartest person that could handle everything, and on the other hand, I was the dumbest person that could do nothing. And it was very when I needed help, everybody said I was too smart. When I didn't need their opinions, they gave it to me and it wasn't by chance that it was always Deandra's too dumb. Deandra's too dumb to drive. So I never learned. Oh, Deandra, she'll never be able to cook. She's too crazy. She puts too many spices and she burns everything. And it's like all these basic skills I had to learn on my own and in secret almost because they just found it so like funny, my failure, and acting like I was the most ridiculous person to breathe. But when they needed help, even as something as simple as to open a website and start a profile, I was a genius. They can't even do their own email accounts. And it's now that I'm realizing that's so effed up. That is so screwed. And that is such a sign that the people that raised me did not like me. They just didn't like me. Or at the very least, they did not want me to like myself. And Shamira had that energy of kind of, oh, you big lovable ogre. Like, oh, you are just the sweetest person to be useless. Let me take you under my wing. And for me, that was a sign of care. Like it's almost like I look back on a lot of my relationships and they acted like I was just so stupid and horrible. And I was a burden they were willing to carry. But I was really their blessing because they were the idiots that couldn't figure anything out. Like the fact that if somebody doesn't show up for your pop up wedding, they don't want to marry you. He became a star, a K star. He got married. I think he even had a kid. He's good. And I mean, the way she described it, I was like, maybe he sent you away. Because she left the country and he was going to then go. I think they were in Korea. She left the country. She went to like Paris. They were going to get married the next day. Everything was planned. They even had the guy, and he just didn't show. And the day after that, he called to say, I don't want to sacrifice everything for you. I don't want to sacrifice my family. I don't want to sacrifice my friends. I don't want to sacrifice my career. And I don't want to leave Korea to be with you. Because according to her, his family detested her, particularly because she was Arabic. And, you know, the Asian communities can be very racist. We all can be very racist, to be quite frank. We all got some West Side Story energy. Um, que viva Puerto Rico. And the way she would describe it, she was so in love with what they could have been that I didn't want to burst her bubble and tell her what they were, because it really just sounded like she fell in love and this guy loved her but wasn't in love with her. And he wanted to be with her, but not enough to not want to be a K star, and which is a Korean star. And she started cyber stalking his wife and him, and they both like got charges and like banished her from any social media profile, but she started alternate ones and claimed that she would still talk to him occasionally via the alternate ones. But I'm like, does he know it's your real identity? You know, like she was living in a fantasy. And when he came in, her partner, who they've been partner for 7 years, they have dogs. He pays for everything. Like she doesn't work. He um he pays for her clothes, her lifestyle, everything, everything. She comes from a wealthy family, but they had their own issues. And he was very friendly, very warm, had some edibles, and just like plopped on the couch because he was working on a Saturday. Which is like, if he's paying your lifestyle and he's working even on weekends, give him an effing break. And we were watching Superman Lois, and she just pops that Facebook of her KX and starts looking at pictures, and she's like, oh, oh, oh. Like she's dreaming. Like to look at his picture launches an acid trip. And she started saying, I miss him. Oh, he was the love of my life. He was, and the way her partner reacted with this kind of very stoic, relaxed focus on the program meant this happens more often. This isn't the first time. Moreover, this was the first time him meeting me. This was, I have the tendency, I date quick. I date my friends quickly. I date my bosses quickly. Like I am all about those initial stages of love bombing, because that's what my father was. He was a love bomber. He would give you like 6 words of kindness and then 600 of meanness, 6 weeks of sweetness versus 6 years of hell. Like he was just that guy of, he knew how to make occasional kindness feel epic compared to the odyssey of tragedy and doom he would launch on your life, or rather on mine. And I just thought, like, we don't know each other enough for you to degrade your partner like this. And he's too calm. And he's too calm. Like, I would have said stop. And I think I did actually. I was like, yeah, it's okay. You love him. I think I said something like that. And I just remember thinking, I am effed if I make this woman a friend of mine and we start becoming close and doing the sisterhood of the traveling pants and telling each other secrets. And because people really do, one thing that my father did was trauma dump on me and just gave me every sad thing that he ever experienced. And people are energy and those transfers matter. And I'm tired of being the trauma transfer for people. And then they walk away feeling spruced because they left their trauma with me. Psh. And I don't listen, your friends are not always going to be on 10. They're sometimes going to drop to a 4. Their mental health is going to shatter. They're not going to be happy go lucky people. And that's why you want to find people that are worthy of you and want your mental health to excel, because they don't see your good nature as a challenge to theirs. They see it as inspiration. They see it as something to protect. and they want to join you on their journey because they also know you would join them healthily on theirs. You'll pick them up and they'll pick you up. And this was a moment where I was like, oh, she crushes people. And she crushes people that are 10 times more important and valuable to her existence and lifestyle than I will ever be. She's going to absolutely poop on me. She's probably said that my apartment was an empty chicken box, an empty Chick-fil-A box, you know? And I guess what I thought to myself was, I've been open with this person and they've closed me because you don't go into somebody's apartment and say that it smells like dog, like immediately. And I was like, really? Because let me tell you something. I'm known for putting too much perfume. There's not one party I have ever been to where somebody, at least one person, has not commented, oh my God, what perfume is that? Can you give me advice? Like, can you tell me what you're wearing? Because I like to smell strong. I've always had like bad sinuses. So that's another neuroses too. I'm not the best smeller, so I have the tendency to over smell in terms of like, I'm going to sage my home 15 times before anybody gets in. I'm not only going to clear energy, I'm going to clear scents. And it was this immediate kind of like, oh, brother, And our mutual friend said she does that. This is why she doesn't go out and doesn't really accept invites. She really thinks she has the best place, that she lives in the best apartment, that she makes the best food, one of those people. And at the time, we were still getting to know each other. And I'm learning that just because you have like 10 fun times with somebody doesn't mean this is a lifetime of friendship. And I have made friendship cheap in the sense of if somebody laughs at my jokes or if I laugh at theirs, we might as well make Taylor Swift beaded besties bracelets. And I was trying to undo that. And that's why, in some ways, in a very twisted, clearly she's not seeing the initial red flags way, I admired her putting boundaries on me and saying, you message me, you reach out, let's do this, but like I thought her giving me control of our friendship was healthy. Except if I didn't take control, we wouldn't have a friendship. So it was not healthy. It was kind of like a red flag. And he just was so calm and so kind of like, guess I'll watch Superman and Lois. And it was this moment of, this is somebody who's disrespected me, has called me basically like, uh, you know, cute, adorably poor. And she's now dragging her husband over a guy that thinks she's a stalker. I got to get out of here. I'm not going to give her my heart. We're done. So we ended the night. We said, oh, we'll hang out. Oh, yeah, yeah. Never saw her again. Never saw her again. And eventually I wouldn't see our mutual friend either. And I don't miss them, which is really amazing for me. That's growth because I what I've realized is I've always attracted people. I've always attracted narcissistic, mean people because that was my dad. And my mother could be very mean to me too. My mother was a strange character because my father was abusive and he was intentional and purposeful in his abuse. My mother just grew up in a mean family that didn't really like each other and just thought bullying was humor. And if you veil your insults with this laugh track, because that was the thing, they were always ribbing, always teasing, always making fun of each other. And if you didn't laugh, you were weak, which is why I was deemed like the weak one, because I didn't want to make fun of anybody and I didn't want to be made fun of. And if you said no, you would get even worse bullying. I'm sorry, jokes. And Shamira was just something that I was used to in many ways. And it was one of the first times in my life And I would be starting Daddy Recovery shortly after, or at least like doing the fabric, because I really thought about Daddy Recovery for a good year, and now I'm picking up steam. Um, it was one of the first times where I was like, you know what? I'm not going to ignore the red flags just to keep a friendship that's going to end, because those relationships never last. They only last a few years, and you're going to walk away resentful because you made a genuine relationship with somebody who's disingenuous. You made yourself like somebody that only wanted you to like them. They didn't necessarily like you. They didn't want you to like yourself. There was no, you were a participant in their world, not in a relationship, if that makes any sense. And that was the thing about my dad. He just wanted everybody to feed his ego and just put as much of themselves in the soul that was his, that was of, in the vacuum that was his soul, because he was always empty. So he needed more, needed more, needed more. And that's what I saw in that moment. I can't forget that moment and her face, because we were in the couch, we're binge watching, and then she brings it up and she started rambling. And it was like, at 30 minutes to an hour of talking about this long lost love, and he just like ignored it, which means it was common. And I don't want people in my life that want to make me feel bad. I don't want people in my life that till this day I'm dousing myself in lavender. Even my dog is in lavender right now. I love lavender. I don't want people that give me insecurities that I've never had before. No one in the everybody says I smell good. My place smells good. I've got 20 million phages. Like that's the thing about arrogant, mean people. They give you new insecurities and they paint themselves like, like saviors. Nobody's ever told you this, but your skin is like really orange toned. And you're like, what? And they'll always pick the most random thing that you're like, is that an insult? I mean, what? I just thought you should know that. Maybe it's some better foundation or something, And she was an okay personality and an okay body with an okay face and some okay money. She was okay. She was okay. And that wasn't even good enough for her. Well, God bless you, Shamira. And long live that restraining order. Check out daddyrecovery.com. And check out DeAndreReviewsItAll.com and check out Headline for her music. Let's heal, let's discuss.